everyone, and welcome back to Talkin Texana. I'm Rebecca Tasker, and on our last episode, Bonnie, Clyde, and the rest of the Barrow Gang were laying low in South Joplin, Missouri. After more than a couple of complaints regarding strange activity, Missouri State Highway Patrolmen gave the home a once-over and returned with backup. They suspected this to be the Barrow Gang's hiding place, and a bold constable shot just 10 feet away from the garage confirmed the theory. This was a quiet neighborhood turned war zone. The police service revolvers were no match for Clyde's Browning automatic rifle, otherwise known as a bar. In fact, most police departments did not have a weapon anywhere close to the power level of Clyde's prized possession. The gang managed to escape just after killing a detective. After a careful scan of the bungalow, many photos were found, and it wasn't long before they circulated nationwide. After killing a marshal during a grocery store robbery in Fayetteville, Arkansas, the gang was up to 9 murders, 6 of which being police officers. Every crime of the time, committed by Bonnie and Clyde or not, increased the blame and notoriety of the gang. Previously viewed as Robin Hood types, they were now universally regarded as criminals. On July 28, 1933, in Platte City, Missouri, the gang was surrounded as they held up in a motel. Clyde's bar made quick work of the seemingly impenetrable armored car, and once again the gang escaped. After a lengthy chase, they found themselves in Dexter, Iowa, up against over 100 police officers, National Guard, and local farmers. Clyde's brother, Buck Barrow, was killed in the fight. His wife, Blanche, surrendered after losing an eye, and Bonnie and Clyde, well, they escaped once again. On January 16, 1934, Bonnie and Clyde helped their old pal Raymond Hamilton and several other inmates escape the Eastham State Farm. Just as they were sent out to the cotton fields, a couple hidden Colt 45s and a speedy getaway car at the ready yielded great success for the Barrow Gang. Lee Simmons, head of the Texas State Prison System, was enraged and petitioned Governor Miriam Ma Ferguson and her husband, former Governor Jim Ferguson, to appoint a special investigator. Frank Hamer was the man for the job. Already a living legend in law enforcement, Hamer had years of experience as a Texas Ranger, a city marshal, and a notable lawman. He took up Bonnie and Clyde's case February 10, 1934. The pair were dead men walking. Easter Sunday, Grapevine, Texas. 2 officers stopped to investigate a parked car and were subject to open fire. The gang was pursued but not caught. Bonnie and Clyde's fingerprints were all over whiskey bottles at the scene of the crime. A few days later in Miami, Oklahoma, the gang committed their final murder. 63-year-old Constable Cal Campbell stopped to help the gang get their car out of the mud. But before the vehicle was freed, Clyde shot and killed the man. Bonnie and another gang member opened fire on policeman Percy Boyd, who had remained in the patrol car. He survived and was forced to help the gang remove their vehicle from the mud. After a frenzied 14-hour joyride, Bonnie and Clyde spared the life of Officer Boyd and let him go. Bonnie said, "We liked him. When we let him go, we gave him a new shirt and tie and expense money back home." Officer Boyd asked, "Bonnie, what should I tell the world when I go back?" Her reply, "Tell him I don't smoke cigars." He did it too. It was in all the Oklahoma newspapers. April 29, 1934. Ruth Warren watched as Clyde Barrow made his way off with her brand new Ford Deluxe V8. To his credit, the keys were left in the ignition, and the vehicle that returned to her some 3 months later would look a little bit different. It was common practice for criminals to have a communication drop spot as they avoided the regular mail service. The Barrow Gangs was under a broken board next to a stump on a roadside near Plain Dealing, Louisiana. On May 22nd, Hamer and 5 other lawmen assumed their stakeout positions. Among them was Ted Hinton, Bonnie's former suitor from her days at the American Cafe. Hinton had left his work in the post office in favor of life as a deputy. Funny how we find him now at kind of a criminal post office. May 23, 1934, at 9:10 in the morning, a gray Ford sedan slid its way up to the stump. 167 holes in Ruth Warren's car later, and the story of Bonnie and Clyde seemed to come to a close. Individually, they were shot more than 50 times each. Hamer described the car as nothing but an arsenal on wheels. It housed 3 bars or Browning automatic rifles, 2 sawed-off shotguns,
10 pistols, 7 of which being Colt .45s, 100 clips of 20 cartridges, and over 3,000 rounds of other loose ammo. People flocked from all over to the scene of the crime, hoping to pocket car parts, spent shell casings, and other souvenirs. The bodies were then transported to Dallas, Texas.
On May 25th, Clyde was buried next to his brother Buck in the West Dallas Cemetery. Frank Hamer was in attendance, but left after crowds began to swarm the funeral service. Bonnie had always expressed that she wanted to be buried next to Clyde, but her mother, Emma Parker, wasn't having it. She said, "Now that she's dead, she's all mine. I don't want her buried next to Clyde. He had her while she was alive." And so, Bonnie was buried May 26th at Fish Trap Cemetery. Ruth Warren had a heck of a time getting her car back, blood, guts and all. The vehicle sold several times over, and each owner earned a pretty penny per viewing. There were also several believable replicas in rotation, and in 1952, a Ted Toddy purchased the true vehicle and earned over $1 million. That's 10 times as much money as the Barrow Gang's robberies combined. It has been a wild ride, to say the least. If you haven't quite had your fill of this infamous duo, they are forever immortalized in film, literature, and museums well beyond the great state of Texas. I'm Rebecca Tasker, and we'll catch you guys next time on Talkin Texana.